Los Angeles, where the Hollywood dream begins. But behind the dazzling lights lies a reality that no one wants to face. A city that once promised freedom is now at risk of becoming a hell for tens of thousands of Americans. Homeless, hopeless, and without escape. And what's noteworthy is that it spares no one.
I try not to use the word homeless, but we've been here about 6 months. We had a house at one point, we had vehicles, we had everything, and it fell apart.
This man was once a veteran, facing challenges to protect America, but now he is one of the first people that Los Angeles has abandoned. He is one of more than 75,000 people living homeless in Los Angeles, a record increase in the city's history. How did the richest city in the country become the top name for poverty, homelessness, and despair? In the next 20 minutes, let's explore the dark side that no tour guide wants you to know about Los Angeles. And if you think it doesn't concern you, watch until the end of this video, because what happens in Los Angeles might just be the beginning for the rest of America. Wow. Almost the present of Los Angeles made me forget its glorious past. There was a time when Los Angeles was not a place people fled from, but rather a place where millions flocked, bringing with them dreams of a better life. The people of Los Angeles at that time said, "This is where you can do anything, become anyone." Throughout the 1960s, more than 1,500 people moved to Los Angeles every week. The price of a house was $13,000, and the income was enough for the whole family to live comfortably and even save a considerable amount without any worries. What about the crime and homelessness rates? Almost non-existent in the evening news. Los Angeles back then was like a dream in a ready-made box. Opening it revealed golden sunshine, jobs, beautiful homes, and a bright future. But there is one thing that the people here did not expect, which is that dream has an expiration date. And in 2025, it officially becomes out of date. People still continue to come here, but no longer to live the dream. They come to escape from elsewhere, but inadvertently fall into a bigger quagmire. Los Angeles is changing, and you can clearly observe it with the naked eye. On one hand, it is the utmost luxury, the mansions in Beverly Hills where movie stars live, the luxury cars gliding on the road without making a sound. And the other side is the increasingly deepening stratification, to the point where many people don't even bother looking. In just a few decades, the income gap between the top 1% richest in LA and the rest has doubled. What about house prices? It's been a long time since earning $200,000 a year was enough to get by. Everything from housing, food, electricity, water, gas, to medical bills has skyrocketed. The only thing that remains unchanged is the average salary. Los Angeles truly resembles a banquet reserved only for the invited, while millions of others, even standing at the door, are not allowed to step in. And then, as the imbalance grew larger, cracks began to appear. But not in one night, but piece by piece, street by street, person by person, they quietly disappeared from that dream. The question is no longer, what happened? But rather, where are we in that heartbreaking story and what lies ahead? But this is just the beginning of today's journey. Prepare yourself before I take you to a hidden corner of the city, where you can see on those fancy postcards, Skid Row, the land of the forgotten. Skid Row, covering less than 2 square kilometers, but it is home to over 4,000 homeless people in Los Angeles. They live together on the streets every day. Here, makeshift tents are lined up closely, clothes hang limply on fences, and personal belongings are piled right in the middle of the street. Sometimes there isn't even a path to walk. Initially, Skid Row was just a temporary shelter for the poor and migrant workers. But by 1976, the Los Angeles authorities officially recognized this area as a sanctuary for the homeless. A decision that seemed humanitarian, but also marked the beginning of a decades-long crisis. Since then, Skid Row has become a dead-end area. The homeless population has continued to grow, leading to issues related to health, welfare, and even security.
It smells of urine everywhere. Skid Row had about 10 toilets, I think, for thousands of people.
So this is, call it the Big Green Machine, and it's a bathroom.
Although the authorities have long been aware of how terrible the sanitation conditions in this area are, It seems that there has been no intervention so far. Officer Dion Joseph, who has patrolled the Skid Row area for nearly 20 years, recalls the government's unsuccessful efforts to improve sanitation conditions. He stated, "Many years ago, we installed 27 mobile toilets. But on the very first day, criminals took control. They forced homeless people to pay between $1 and $5 just to use the restroom, a service that should have been free." Governor Gavin Newsom once announced a $100 million expenditure to help the homeless, but Skid Row remains stagnant in the heart of Los Angeles. Where has the money gone? Are the relief programs really effective, or are they just like a brief rain that doesn't penetrate the parched soil of a homelessness issue that has deeply rooted itself in this city? Los Angeles continues to develop, but Skid Row still exists. As a reminder that even in the midst of a vast and thriving paradise, homelessness still persists. And it is worth mentioning that more and more updated versions of Skid Row are emerging in Los Angeles. No longer the City of Angels, now it is the sinful city with two distinct sides. One side is meticulously made up, the other side has blemishes that are hard to hide. Just a few blocks from Skid Row are bars that charge $500 a night, where people burn money just to buy a few hours of glamour, while thousands of others don't have $5 to buy a loaf of bread. Now, the homeless in Los Angeles not only lose their homes, they also lose their social identity, losing the right to exist with dignity. And the most heartbreaking thing is, many people once had lives very similar to yours and mine. It is estimated that among the 75,000 homeless people in this city, more than 25% once had stable jobs. While the city spends over $1 billion each year to address homelessness, the number of people living on the streets continues to rise. Perhaps this is no longer a simple humanitarian issue, but an urban vortex that sweeps the poor off the edge of survival. And then, even after packing their bags and leaving their homes, seemingly with nothing left to lose, once again, the homeless step into a new game. A game they must win if they want to have a full night's sleep tonight. For the homeless in Los Angeles right now, there is something becoming more precious than gold, a space to be left alone. A corner of the sidewalk where no one chases you away, a park bench that hasn't been removed yet, a secluded corner where the sound of baby shark music cannot be heard, even just a shaded spot under the bridge. As of early 2025, there are more than 75,000 homeless people in Los Angeles County. Nearly 30% of them live in public places, tents, cars, parking lots. Many parks have become no-go tourist destinations because they are covered with tents. A few years ago, these places were where people took their children to play on weekends. Now they are communal dormitories without a receptionist, without walls, without a future. The park is no longer a place to relax, but a place where even existing is a negotiation. Los Angeles seems to be turning into a fragmented map, where each person has to claim a piece of land to sleep on, as if playing a game of chess in real life, and they must win. On one side are the vacant million-dollar apartments, advertised for rent at prices that only foreign investors can afford. On one side are people crowded into tents, hoping not to be evicted the next morning. The California dream now resembles a glass castle, beautiful, sparkling, but only to be admired from afar. When home becomes a privilege, those without a home become invisible. But are they really invisible? Or have we become too accustomed to turning a blind eye? And if you still think of the homeless as strangers, then perhaps you are mistaken. In reality, the gap between you and a homeless person could be just a medical bill or a month of unemployment. So what has caused tens of thousands of people to end up in such a situation? Perhaps the answer does not lie in the tents, but in the numbers on each bill sent to you every month. An ironic truth exists in Los Angeles. While some people are willing to spend $7 on a latte in Beverly Hills, not far away, there are others who just hope to find a place to sleep without being asked to leave by the police at dawn. Is it true that in Los Angeles, sleep is even more expensive than a cup of coffee? Los Angeles is not only one of the most glamorous cities in the United States, but also ranks among the most expensive places in the world. The average home price in Los Angeles has risen to about $912,500, compared to the national average of about $375,000. This makes home ownership a distant dream for many residents. So what about renting a house? It's not easy either. When the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment has reached nearly $3,000 per month, equivalent to nearly $40,000 per year. This figure is even higher than the annual income of many blue-collar workers. In Los Angeles, renting a house now feels like running a marathon on a treadmill. You keep running, sweating, straining, but still stay in place. You can't move up, and just one stumble, and you're out of the race. Many people live in a situation of having a job but no home. They are not unemployed, they don't have health issues, but they still have to sleep in their cars because rent is too expensive. People used to say that the middle class is the backbone of America, but here, that backbone is gradually shaking, slowly and painfully. People with jobs, with education, but still having to share houses, live in cramped spaces, sleep in cars, or leave the city. But Los Angeles doesn't just have high housing prices, but everything in daily life, from gas, food, medicine, has skyrocketed. According to statistics, food prices in Los Angeles are 17.7% higher than the national average. This means that if a dozen eggs in another state costs $4, in LA, you might have to pay nearly $5. And this applies to almost everything, from milk, bread, to vegetables. Don't be surprised if you see someone in the supermarket hesitating over an apple, a tray of eggs, or a few bunches of vegetables. Because if they buy them, they might have to throw away something in tonight's dinner. An average lunch in Los Angeles now costs about $22.50, significantly higher than the average in many other cities. A dinner for two. Be prepared to spend at least $110 if you want a decent dining experience. This means that a romantic date could cost you as much as a week's worth of food in another country. Even the most basic things, electricity, water, gas, are also a significant expense. The monthly utility bill for a single person is around $132, while for a small family, this number can rise to $195 or more. And what about transportation? Don't expect it to be cheap either. Filling up a gas tank in California right now can sometimes mean a whole month's salary going up in smoke. The average gas price in LA, $5.80 per gallon, the highest in the country. Los Angeles is like a fancy restaurant, where they still serve lavish dishes, but behind the kitchen are hungry chefs, staff sleeping in the storage, and unpaid electricity bills. While skyscrapers continue to rise, the luxurious districts remain bustling with high-end fashion stores. In another corner of the city, many people have to choose between having a full meal or paying their utility bills. Is this the price of the Los Angeles dream? When everyone is worried about survival, kindness gradually becomes a luxury. A sympathetic glance, a question, "Are you okay?" has also become a luxury in a city where everyone is struggling in silence. Because when one cannot even stand firm, how can they extend a hand to support anyone? In the dust, neon lights, and stylish electric cars, there are poor neighborhoods gradually losing hope each day. And in what was supposed to be America's entertainment capital, many people are no longer able to smile. If the cost of living has already made many people struggle, then taxes in California further increase the financial burden. California has the highest personal income tax rate in the United States, with those earning over $1 million per year being taxed up to 13.3%. But it's not just the wealthy who feel this pressure. The average tax rate that workers have to bear is also around 8%, higher than in many other states. Not only is it about income tax, but sales tax in California is also among the highest in the United States. When combining both state and local taxes, a shopping or dining transaction can be significantly more expensive. This means that from a meal in a restaurant to a new phone or even a cup of coffee, everything is more expensive than the national average. With this tax rate, even those with stable jobs feel the pressure, as the amount they actually receive after taxes is significantly eroded each month. And for those who are struggling with exorbitant housing costs and expensive food prices, losing an additional portion of their income to taxes makes the dream of a stable life even more distant. Los Angeles is not just an expensive city. It is also a place where every dollar you earn is sliced by hidden taxes and fees that many people do not anticipate. Is this the price to pay to live in the paradise of California? And then when everything is no longer as cheap as before, there is something disappearing in Los Angeles, not just houses or money, but rather the belief in the future. If you ask a young person born in LA today, do you dream of owning a house and living in this city? Then perhaps the majority of the answers would be no, accompanied by a bitter smile. According to statistics, only 17% of people aged 25 to 34 in LA believe they can buy a house in the next 10 years. About 40% of young people in California are planning to leave the state due to the cost of living. Meanwhile, the rate of mental health issues due to financial pressure is rising sharply among the 18 to 35 age group. For many young people, the California dream is no longer about sunshine and blue seas, but about red numbers in their accounts and evenings wondering what they are doing wrong. Older people say, "In my time, it was also difficult, but I persevered and succeeded." But today, with the same level of effort, young people can only afford the rent and worry that they will have to move out next month. The rooftops that once symbolized safety have now become invisible barriers between generations. When no one dreams of where they live anymore, then the community is no longer a community, but just a crowd that walks. Los Angeles is like a grand stage, glamorous, vibrant, full of illusions. But behind the scenes, there are thousands of young people struggling to hold their ground, not because they lack talent, but because the script of life has been rewritten without anyone telling them. When the young no longer dream, when the old begin to doubt what they once believed. So what remains to bind a city to the people living in it? And if a city loses those who believe in the future, does that city still truly live? There is something even more terrifying than the widespread homelessness in Los Angeles right now. And that is when everything becomes normal and no one feels surprised, as if it were a matter of course. When someone sleeping on the sidewalk no longer makes us feel heartbroken, but just makes us walk faster. Compassion, once a human instinct, is now summed up in the phrase, "I don't know what to do either." When witnessing suffering too frequently, we begin to build emotional barriers, a form of survival in modern society, but also the beginning of silent division. According to a UCLA survey, 70% of Los Angeles residents believe they have become emotionally numb to the sight of homelessness. 1/3 of people said they feel guilty walking past but don't know how to help. And in the wealthiest neighborhoods, the problem is hidden behind barriers, not solved. Los Angeles, the city of lights, but also a place where everyone draws the curtains against the pain of others. Like a film that keeps playing, where the protagonist suffers, while the audience gradually becomes indifferent. But is that really unavoidable? Or do we still have another way? Not to save the whole city, but just to start over by not turning away. In the heart of Los Angeles right now, there are still small plots of land being sown. And perhaps the only thing stronger than everything else is a small belief that things can change. Los Angeles has invested over $1 billion in the past year to support the homeless, but the effectiveness remains in question. Besides that, tiny homes villages, small, affordable, quickly assembled homes, creating temporary living spaces. In addition, the Housing First program, providing housing first, then supporting rehabilitation and employment. Along with that are applications of technology to locate homeless camps, helping to deliver medical services and food faster. In fact, many other cities have found ways to mitigate this situation. The question is whether Los Angeles can learn and successfully apply these methods. Houston, Texas. This city has reduced the number of homeless people by 50% over the past 10 years thanks to a long-term rental assistance policy. Instead of solely focusing on building new housing, Houston has partnered with non-profit organizations to help the homeless access stable housing, along with job and healthcare support. There are in San Diego, one of the first cities in California to build low-cost temporary housing. These areas not only provide safe housing, but also offer addiction recovery support services, mental health care, and job counseling right on the premises. But among all the solutions, what is most needed is not more budget, but less invisibility. A person who once lived in Skid Row shared, "I don't need anyone's pity. I just need to be called by my name, to be seen as a person. I just need to be called by name, to be seen as a person." Maybe this city hasn't found a way out yet. But sometimes, just a small light in the night is enough for someone to know that they are not completely left behind. So, what is holding us back? Could it be that each person, whether a resident, a passerby, or even the audience watching this video, has a small part in the story unfolding? There was a time when Los Angeles was the American dream in the flesh. Each street is a scene from a movie. Each neighborhood is a symphony of hope, ethnicity, and opportunity. But today, those scenes seem to have been rewound. On the once bustling boulevards, silence is gradually growing. Silence from the avoiding gazes, from the dream that has been erased, from the people dozing off on the sidewalks as if the world itself had pressed the pause button on them. Some people call this place a hell on earth. Some people say the city of sin. But in reality, the sin does not lie in the streets. It lies in the familiarity with injustice, the fatigue of caring, and the acceptance that everything is as it is. We don't need all the answers. But perhaps just one question is enough to start the change. If this were your child, your mother, or yourself, could you turn your back? Los Angeles is not just a city. It is the mirror reflecting the future of America. And that future, which could be very different, if today we still look at each other and haven't forgotten to feel. If you think stories like this need to be heard, if you believe that empathy still has a place in today's society, please hit subscribe to join us. Each follow is a voice, and sometimes a single voice is enough to change a corner of the street. This video is made with the aim of analyzing, exploring, and sharing social perspectives without making absolute conclusions or criticizing any individuals, organizations, or authorities. All data and images used are intended to illustrate and raise community awareness. All the stories in the video are presented with a humanitarian spirit, without incitement or politicization.